So
So
you got me, baby.
I'm happy to have you.
Thanks.
I'm really happy. Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. So what are we doing today?
So I just asked you to join me for a conversation. I'm pretty excited now
Awesome.
about consciousness and peace.
I like it. I like consciousness. It's one of my favorite topics.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought one of your favorite topics is sex and consciousness, but it's
Yeah,
great.
people often think that, but nobody takes long enough to get to know me to
I know.
find out what's really true for me.
I can sense your energy, and I can feel I know you, beyond this.
Oh, good.
Yeah, really. And I adore your vibration and energy, so I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah. So first I want to thank you, for being here, joining me, and contributing your time, energy, effort, and consciousness for this topic. And I really want you to talk, not me, of course, and ask you about what you feel, think, what your point of view about the connection between consciousness and peace.
Well, the thing that stops peace is people have a fixed point of view. Well, a few things. Number one is our fixed points of view and our judgments get in the way. In other words, people have a judgment about what peace is supposed to be. And they have this idea that peace is where I get what I want and you don't fight me for it. And that's not really peace. And so it's our fixed points of view and our judgments that get in the way and stop us from actually being able to create that. And it's our judgments of ourselves on the one hand, but it's our judgments of other people, other cultures, other religions, as though we're right and they're wrong, and we need to fight them in order to get them to fall into line with the rightness of our point of view. But why is their point of view any less valid than your point of view? My personal point of view on the whole thing is, if you're not hurting somebody else, if you're not disempowering somebody else, then you should be able to do whatever the heck it is you want to do. And the difficulty is we have the idea that our point of view is right and somebody else's is wrong, rather than including the gift and the greatness that all points of view could be. And so, there's certain cultures where they have this historic sense of rightness of their point of view, or this historic sense of wrongness of their point of view. And that can be even more detrimental, because when you believe you're wrong, you're always trying to prove that you're right. Or if you've been made wrong, if you've been, let's talk about, let's talk about Israel. Let's talk about Judaism, where it's been made wrong by so many people for so long that you get this sense that you have to fight in order to have the rightness of it, or the gift that it is to you. And this is where, we need to, on the one hand, we need to take a much larger, much longer historical perspective to see where some of the lack of peace that's in the world currently gets created. And like I said, if you've been made wrong for thousands of years, you tend to want to let people know, number one, I'm not wrong. Number two, if I have to fight to no longer be wrong, then I'll do it. And, which is where we sort of see Israel currently, and not just Israel. I'm highly aware of this. I'm sure a lot of other people are aware of this. It's the world that we live in, where peace is not really a valuable product, and the rightness of your point of view, and if somebody else disagrees with you, then you fight against them to have the rightness of your point of view. It's endemic in the world right now. But if we're truly going to ever have such a thing as peace, then we're going to have to stop seeing other people as wrong, stop seeing their points of view as wrong, stop seeing the fact that they're different as a wrongness, and start to embrace the difference that other people are. And if you look at it, when you fundamentally get behind the surface of so many of the fights that are going on in the world, it boils down to that. I'm right and you're wrong, and you need to see that I'm right. Otherwise, and otherwise we're going to fight. And it doesn't have to be that way. And it's interesting because when I was a little kid, I grew up in a family that was had very strong, very fixed points of view about the rightness of a lot of things. And one of the things that was right at the time, because it was right in the Cold War. And so we had this group, because I was in church at the time, which talk about rightness. Jesus, Christians know how to do rightness. It's amazing. It's so funny how the world's major religions all say we have the answer, we are right, and everybody else is wrong because our God is. And it's like, wait a minute, if we have so many religions around the world, and how is it that there's just one God and our point of view is right? Like, we must have taken something and twisted that somewhere along the way. But anyway, so I had there was this presentation from some people that were in our church. And by the way, I ended up stopping church when I was about 16, because all I saw were these people who were like, we're right and these other people are wrong. And I'm like, wait, but okay, I can see are also wrong. Yes, they're wrong too.
I lost you for a moment. So can you repeat the last sentence, please?
Yeah. And let me close a couple programs here, just in case. But so, hold on just one sec. So I was just talking about the wonderful gift of these people saying, right, and even other people that are in our same religion wrong. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're all supposedly talking to the same God, but because they have different points of view about how to interpret it, they're wrong. I never understood that. I still don't. I mean, I understand where it comes from. I just don't understand how you could get to that place. But story for another time. So we had this group that had actually, they had gone over to Russia. And like I said, this is in the middle of the Cold War. And in Russia, there was no such thing as Christianity or religion. It wasn't allowed by the government. And they met these amazing people over there. And it's the way I always knew the world should be. But they said, oh my God, these people are not our enemies. They're just like us. And I was like, exactly. I mean, as a teenager, I knew that. People are people. We grow up in different cultures and we try to make that right. But people are people, and if you go beyond the heads of religion, if you go beyond the heads of politics, and you just meet people in different countries, and you don't talk about these divisive issues, like what's your political belief and, what's your religious belief, you find people to be amazing. And we as people on this planet are absolutely phenomenal. And we have this willingness to have anybody's back, except then if we have somebody who's a different religion that we're not supposed to like, then we already have that preconceived judgment of them. But if we met them and didn't know their religion, we would be there, we would talk with them, we would drink with them, we would party with them, we would have fun with them, we would like them, we would be friends with them, we would have their back, we would look out for them, we would take care of them, they would take care of us. And so we have these massive lies that are these walls that are in the way, but we are the ones who keep buying the lies. We need to get over that and recognize that we have people on this planet. That's it. We got people. We have all kinds of points of view and all kinds of religions and all kinds of politics and all kinds of right and wrong, but fundamentally we have people. And there's so many people on this planet that are truly wonderful that it gets lost in the mix when we have this need to fight against anybody who's different.
Wow, amazing. So my point of view about it is that I can see other people in me. Actually, there is no other people. Everything is like mirroring with me. Everything is in me. If I'm judging something outside, it's actually I'm judging something in me that I'm not willing to accept or or dealing with something is not linear, but something is mirroring me outside of me, because there is no outside. It's like a program creating the reality that I'm seeing, that I'm watching. So yeah, I can, see what you're saying about other people. But from your point of view, what do you think could create this, peace in the world? Or let's start in the Middle East maybe, but, all around the world, what would it take for, peace?
The one thing that I know has the capacity to actually create peace is consciousness, which is why I do something called access consciousness. It's like, because see, consciousness is where everything exists and nothing is judged. There truly is not a right or a wrong. It's just a sense of, will this choice create more or less? And I also recognize that this conversation, for me to say there is no right or wrong, or there should be no right or wrong, makes a lot of people who are stuck in right and wrong really pissed off. You don't know how the world works. You haven't experienced this, or what do you mean no right or wrong? Of course we need to, no, actually we don't. And I used to live from a very, 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 very strong place of right and wrong and good and bad. And it was killing me. It was literally killing me, to the point where I was going to kill myself because I felt so wrong and I couldn't find a way to feel right. And that's one aspect. And the thing is, it's like, so when I say that, I realize there are people out there that think I'm probably crazy. But what I found is, if we're all living in this reality and it's, let's say, this big, whatever, we have this set of awarenesses. Well, when you step into a reality beyond it, all the people that are here in this reality think you're wrong, think you're crazy, think it can't exist until they start to have some part of it too. And so when I talk about no right or wrong, all the people that are stuck in right or wrong are going, that can't exist. And I'm like, you know what? I used to believe the same thing. And what I found is, as I started actually exploring consciousness and getting out of the psychological point of view, getting out of the point of view that most self-development stuff in the world has, getting out of the point of view of these people are wrong or these ideas are wrong, and instead went, wow, is there anything there for me? Is there anything that would contribute to me and what I would like to create and be in the world? My life started changing dynamically. I started having a sense of peace within myself. And that's the other thing about peace. You said, what will create it? My point of view is the consciousness that we can choose for ourselves that gives us a sense of peace allows it to be possible in the world. I wrote a book, Being You, Changing the World. And a lot of people, when they hear about changing the world, go, I want to change the world. I want to make the world a happy place. I'm like, wait, hold on. Do we take a moment here? Let's take a break. Let's have a moment to look at this. It's actually changing the world here first. You can't keep this thing the same, that is your world, that is everything around you, that everyone you're interacting with, and how you show up in your world, and expect to change the world at large. That's what so many people are doing. Oh, we want to make this, we need to change this, we need to fight these people out here and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you know what? Once you get present with you and you start getting out of judgment and out of right and wrong, what happens is your world changes, your sense of peace personally changes, your sense of joy starts to change, your sense of fulfillment starts to change. And when it does, and you actually have a sense of peace and joy and fulfillment in your own world, you don't want to go fight other people, because that's not peaceful and joyful, and it has no contentment to it. And so the change really does have to start with us. But when our world changes, because we are all citizens of this planet, the world at large changes. And the way consciousness works, you've heard of the 100th monkey phenomenon? Yes?
Oh, that with the bananas that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where basically they were studying these monkeys on these islands that were not connected, and the monkeys didn't have any direct connection. They had stayed in their little groups. And so they would drop food for these monkeys, and the monkeys were eating dirty food until one monkey went, hey, I'm gonna go clean my food. So it went and washed it, you know, which made it better for everybody. So all the ones on its particular tribe went and washed their food. And once it got to 100 monkeys, all the monkeys on all the islands simultaneously started washing their food. And they'd never had any direct physical communication. And this, from my point of view, is also how peace can work, how consciousness works, which is where, with enough of us choosing to be peaceful in our own lives, with enough of us choosing to see beyond the lie that we have to fight everyone and everything, with enough of us actually embracing the sense that something different is possible in our world and how we interact with everybody in our world and everything in our world around us, what's going to happen and what the possibility is for that to actually become part of what is available on the planet. Because the thing is, every molecule, and science tells us this, you know, this is not just my point of view, but every molecule in the universe has consciousness. You know, Einstein proved it, because you'll have one, when you separate these guys, put them on other sides of the planet, if you turn one like this, the other one turns exactly like that. How did that happen? Oh, and it happens faster than the speed of light, by the way, which really freaked people out, because they thought light was the speed limit of the universe, the fastest anything could travel. No, consciousness is instantaneous. And so one of the things I've said for a very long time in the classes that I deliver is, when you open up a space of possibility and consciousness, it's different than what currently exists on the planet. You invite everybody to have that space far easier, because you have opened it up where it didn't exist. It's like, you know, it's like if you're an explorer and you're out and, you know, people are exploring, like in the United States, for example, when people went west and started exploring, well, if you go out there and you explore and then you open up road and a little, so people can get supplies along the way, it makes everybody else's exploration easier. And that's basically what we're doing with every element of change that we invite into our own lives. We make it available for everybody else on the planet who desires it. And, you know, it, like, for example, if you experienced abuse, or let's say you experienced, you know, being in a country like Israel, that's really all about fight and defend yourself. And by the way, what's that?
Not all of it, not really all of it. That's
really
going outside, yeah. It's not
really.
Israel is it's an amazing country with, like, level of consciousness here is something that I've never seen really around the world. It's one of the highest levels of consciousness, places in the world. So, and it's fun.
Really?
Yeah, you should.
Now, I've been there, and as much as I would like to agree with you, I would say there's one thing. Now, I would say there are some phenomenal people there that are choosing a level of consciousness and awareness that is phenomenal. And culturally, though, it's primarily about fight and defend. But look at it, it makes sense. You're in the Middle East, you have people all around that are trying to fight and kill. So please also, though, see, this is the thing, though, that is also the defense. See, we have this idea, if I have this conversation, you go, yes, but let me defend because I see a lot of consciousness in Israel. You know what I mean? But that's the exact thing that I'm talking about. It's like, but I have to also say another thing, because it gets mistaken a lot when you live in a country that seems to have to defend to even survive. Then anything that is said that seems like it's not a praise of that seems like then you're making it wrong. But that's what defense creates, is when you defend, you have to see everything as right or wrong. And you also have to look for who's attacking me next. Who's attacking me? Who's attacking my religion? Who's attacking my country? Who's attacking my family? Who's attacking me? Who's attacking my religion? Who's attacking my country? Who's attacking my family? Which is, it's a constant state of, being like this. And you always look for something where somebody's trying to tell you you're wrong, because you have to prove that you're not, because that seems like the only way to survive. And so what I'm saying is there is a phenomenal level of possibility in Israel but the defense and the fight gets in the way of it actually being able to be chosen. And so when you talk about what would it take to create peace, actually giving up the defense and giving up the fight. Now, I got to also say this, because I realize that it can sound easy for me as, you know, an American. I'm actually an infinite being, you know, I just happen to be born in the United States. But, you know, it can sound easy for me as an American, quote unquote, to go, oh, well, you don't understand what it's like to be over here and blah, blah, blah. Actually, I do. I had to fight and defend to live when I was growing up. I was in an extremely physically and an emotionally abusive household for years. Okay. So like, I get it on a very personal level that a lot of people may not, but I also get it energetically from my conversations with Israelis, but being in Israel and also looking at the situation as it is, as somebody with not a point of view, but an awareness would look. And so when I talk about giving up the fight and giving up the defense, this has to be a personal thing first. And then what you have to do is see what is possible beyond that, if anybody even desires it. Because I would never say, oh yeah, Israel, you know, give up your army and just be peaceful. That's just insane. Okay. But if we look beyond this reality for a moment at some of the possibilities that could be available, that if enough of us around the world were to actually choose consciousness and choose peace in our own lives, and that actually became the space that was available for everybody, let's just talk about the Middle East right now, then what you would see happening is, and here's my dream of the future. So, you know, here's my 2018 conversation. We shall see what happens in the next 10, 20 years, okay? Maybe 15 years, let's say. But if enough of us actually choose this, and this is why I also say it's got to be a much longer term vision that we have if we're truly talking about bringing peace to the entire world. We can bring it to ourselves in a very short amount of time and have it most of the time. I and thousands of other people who've come to Access are living proof that that can actually work. Even if you experienced abuse, even if you've hated your life, even if you wanted to kill yourself, even if your whole life has been a fight, if you have the courage to do it, you can change that in a relatively short amount of time within your own world. But if enough of us actually had the courage to choose that, we wouldn't be looking from the reality we're currently looking from. In order for there to be peace breaking out around the world, enough of us need to choose it, number one, and value it, number two, and get over the idea that fight is going to create what we want. But number two, if that occurs, when that occurs, what would happen is it wouldn't be Israel going, hey, we're giving up our weapons, you know, and you guys all still want to kill us. It wouldn't work like that. What it would be is, it would start in one country where somebody was willing to have a different possibility, and they would actually see that it would work finally. So it wouldn't be this, oh, we're going to talk about peace so we can secretly kill each other more. It would actually work, and people would see how that worked, and they go, wow, that's nicer, that's easier. And then some other piece from some other country or within Israel would say, hey, let's do this also. Since that worked, let's be a little more peaceful in this way. And then it would start growing and contributing to each other to a degree that potentially, eventually, once again, very long-term view, the entire Middle East was actually able to live in peace. So you short and long answer, that was a very long answer, I get it. But I want to explain the thing that I'm looking at behind all of this, or the bigger sense of all of this, because people say, well, what's it going to take to create peace? Like, give me one tool that will change the world. Okay, consciousness and getting peaceful in your own life and giving up the fight. There you go. And if enough of us do it, then we have what I just talked about. But people do that all the time as a way of basically saying, fuck you, it's not going to work. You know, it's like they go, oh, well, give me one tool to create peace. There isn't one tool except consciousness, which is like huge. It involves everything. Okay, one tool, you choose consciousness, get out of judgment, choose peace in your own life, get out of fight. That's one tool in 4 parts, which actually will work. But a lot of people, like I said, are asking for that from this place of, give me one tool to change the world, except that's not realistic. We need to have a much longer term view of how we can be and how we can start this process, how we can have it in our own lives, and then recognize that that will translate into the world.
Great, really. I just got my contribution now for what you said. It was the moment that you said, stop defending, stop saying it's not true about Israel. And I got it. Like the things of
Cool.
consciousness, and the moment I see like I'm not fighting, but the defending is creating fight. And I was asking a question, what can I choose? What can I choose to create something, bigger? And the moment you said the defend, it was like, oh, stop defending, because you are creating those walls. And when you leave it, it's, for me, I don't know how it can, contribute to other people, but this is how I see it. And thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I think you saying it, that is the contribution for other people, because this is that thing that I said about when you open up a space for something different, it actually gives people permission to be able to choose it too, where they didn't necessarily even know it was possible. And my point of view is one sentence you utter can change somebody's life. Like you talking about this, us having this open, vulnerable conversation where, I can lay my cards out on the table and say, hey, I'm not trying to make you or anything wrong. And then you receiving it and then seeing that one shift in consciousness right there, that from my point of view is how the world changes. And I thank you for being willing to have that vulnerability and hear it and not have to fight and defend it, and also realize, shit, I was fighting and defending. Wow. Whoa. And then also realize how much more beautiful the world can be without it.
Amazing, amazing, really. I couldn't think of receiving this kind of contribution for myself. I was talking about the world, not me particularly, especially, but apparently this would be a contribution. And you said something about this consciousness thing. Obviously consciousness creates and you can be peace and then create peace in the world. But how can you sell consciousness to people? Most people want to get, personal benefits. You come to a class and you want to manifest and create a bigger house, a bigger bank account, or whatever, and it's good, it's okay. But peace is something, beyond personal. It's not, peace, okay. So you can't really sell it. You can sell sex, but not peace, as you know. So how can we put it together, I don't know, and sell it to people? So, I don't know, if you have an idea.
Yeah, I do. Don't try to sell it. Okay. Don't sell it. Okay. Because it's only the people that are looking for something different that will get this conversation anyway. We have this idea that we need to go to all the people that can't hear it and somehow convince them. No, you can't convince them. Stop trying. They don't want to hear it. They will look at you like you're a fool and an idiot and you don't realize how the world works. They will tell you that, of course, you must fight and defend because we are right and they are wrong. Mm-hmm. And when you hear that, go, okay, cool. Now you're obviously not somebody I should be talking to about this. And so, and really, like you said, people want a bigger house. They want, more money. They want, better sex. They want, well, the funny part is the more conscious you become, all of that shows up too. But underlying that, it comes from a sense of peace with yourself and gratitude for yourself. And it comes with this underlying sort of quiet joy at being alive that most people don't have. And so, not that they can't have it, by the way, it's just that we've learned that if we're going to have the bigger house and the bigger car, then we will be joyful, which itself is a fight for, because we're either fighting for or against. It's this entire reality. We talked about Israel and the Middle East, we talked about that sort of spectrum of it, but it's this entire reality we live in. And from my point of view, we need to ask for something beyond this reality. And a lot of people out there have the point of view that this reality is all there is, except I don't have that point of view. I'm always looking for what else is possible, and truly what else is possible that we can choose. So for me, if somebody wants more money and they come to Access to get more money, I'm like, cool, well, let me give you some tools so you can get out of your judgments, because it's your judgments and your fixed points of view and all the limited points of view that you bought as true for you that are not, that create the money problem. So, and they're motivated to do that, which I'm like, cool, awesome. But what they don't realize is as they start getting rid of their judgments and their points of view, they start getting rid of them, not just about money, but in every area of receiving, because there's no such thing as a money issue. It's only what you're unwilling to receive that creates your limitation on money. So they start opening up their receiving more. And as part of receiving more, they start getting more ideas and more interest in the world and more awareness. And then they start getting happier. And then they start wondering why they were fighting so much, because it's so heavy in comparison to being happy. And then their life starts getting easier, not just in money, but in relationships and sex and with their body. And then they start seeing a different possibility as the world. And then they wonder how it was that they could have made themselves so limited and fight for so long when this totally different way of being is available. So the way to sell it, don't sell it. People will come to it on their own or they won't, and it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. For me, the sense of peace we're talking is connected to some kind of orgasmic feeling with the universe. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's like being alive, being orgasmic. It's, for me, it's a connection to God, actually. Like the universe is going through my body and within me, and it's connected to everything, all the molecules and flowers and plants and the land and the air and everything is, and this is a sense of peace that I don't know how to describe in words. It's something that is beyond words. So this is a sense of peace for me, and I'm not sure, for me to sell it, if to offer it to someone else is as an orgasmic living, or
truly. If people can hear it, and that description of it, it's like, yep, there's this aliveness that the entire universe has. And even when we say universe, though, people are like, oh yeah, airy fairy, whatever. But really what I mean is like every molecule in existence. I mean, if you look at it, it's like the sun. The sun never has to eat, but it has a lot of energy to give. The earth never has to eat, but it has a lot of energy to give. Now, you can talk about chemical reactions creating that and all that. You can linearize it to that, which is also true. But at the same time, there are these things out there that have this almost unlimited, millions of years or billions of years lifespans. And we keep looking at ourselves and believing we're separate from it all rather than connected to it all. We have an earth under our feet that we keep walking on top of and using, but we don't recognize the earth has a consciousness of its own. We never say, hey, earth, can we build these houses here, or is there going to be an earthquake? Because if we would ask, the earth would say, hey, by the way, you may not want to build your house there. Like, I know these people that bought this house that was it was in the nicest area of California, darling. It was super expensive. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And yet, from the time they said they were going to buy it, it was a really expensive house. And from the time they said they were going to buy it, I had this weird heaviness. You ever get that with something? Somebody says they're going to do something and kind of feel like, eh. And I've since learned that is our knowing, light or heavy. Like, we know, because what's true always makes you lighter. A lie or a difficulty always makes you feel heavier. And I thought to myself, because as we do, we often go into, I must be jealous. I must be envious. Maybe I want to live there. Maybe that's what it was. And come to find out, about 6 months after they moved in with all of their beautiful furniture, there was a mudslide and their entire house was destroyed. Now, one of the things that I've learned is that we have a level of awareness that is it's way beyond what we think it is. We can actually get a sense of when something we're doing feels heavy. And even the wife, she had told me, she's like, she's like, I really want to do this house, and it seems like our dream house. She's like, there's just something that feels a little off, and I can't tell what it is. And if you've ever had that, I think we've all had it at some point where there's just something off, and so you try to logic it, and you're like, oh, maybe it's the financing of the house, maybe it's the location, oh, maybe blah 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 blah. And so she knew too, but the husband was so committed to getting this house. And so I'm bringing that up because had they been willing to say, hey, Earth, got any plans here? Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on? The Earth will actually communicate. And I know to those people that want to maintain the fight, to those people that are into the right and wrong of everything, this conversation is like, oh, you're crazy. And I totally get that. And, I'm the weirdest person you will ever meet, or at least one of them. But the original meaning of weird was of spirit, fate, or destiny. So when somebody tells me I'm weird, I go, thank you. And they always go, it wasn't a compliment. I'm like, well, it was to me. Thank you so much.
I'm willing to be crazy. And
yes, you are.
Yes, I am definitely crazy. And I love it, actually. I don't care if people see me as crazy. And about one of the contribution that I got from Access Consciousness is really about following the energy and asking questions, like asking the land, or asking how would my energy or my life look like in 5 years if I choose this or choose this. And I'm much more aware of things and the energy, and I just follow the energy. And it's when I don't do it, I can see the results, like, I knew it, but
yep.
I didn't listen. Yeah. And when
I know, isn't that the fun part, when you go against your knowing and you knew not to friggin' do it and you do it anyway? And you're like, shit, it turned out as bad as I knew it would.
Yeah, this is amazing thing. And like, if I could get it to every person, the main issue that I show or contribute in Access Consciousness is follow the energy. This is the main issue. When you follow the energy, you follow your knowing, so you know everything. Like, it's an amazing. Those tools are amazing tools and simple tools to use them. And yes, people can use them for their own benefit and to the world's benefit also. And
and they're not separate,
Yeah, it's
your benefit and the world's benefit.
Yeah.
They're the same. You're part of the world. We keep acting like there's us and then there's the world, or in certain cultures there's me and my family and then there's the world, and it's like, no, we are the world. I love that song, we are the world. Really, we are the world. We are this planet's children. This is our home. We all live here together. The weird thing that we do on this planet is, like, if we lived in a really big house with all kinds of people and whatever, and we act like, well, my room is the right room and the only room, so I'm going to kill you if you come in my room. It's like, we all live in the same house, people. Let's learn to get along and do something different here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, one other tool that we sort of alluded to is, well, there's two. One is, three tools that can really help your life. One is, what's true will always make you lighter. A lie always makes you heavier. So if you think about doing something and you get heavy, it's because there's a lie involved or there's a difficulty there. Like the lady whose house got destroyed in the mudslide / earthquake. And that's one. What's true makes you lighter. A lie makes you heavier. So if you're going to have more lightness in your life, for you, choose what makes you lighter when you think about doing it. Now, how do you know? Well, you can ask yourself, for every choice you make, you could ask this question. What will my life be like in 5 years if I choose this? And just get the energy of it. What will my life be like in 5 years if I don't? And it's not what will my life look like, because you can't see the future. You can perceive the future. So you go, what will my life be like if I do it and if I don't? What was that?
Yeah, that's exactly. I just didn't, say it right in English, but this is what I mean, because I don't see. It's not about how it really looks like, but how the energy. What's the sense of it? If it's
Yeah.
growing or it's getting like this.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Just the sense of it. And when you realize it's the sense of it, it gets so much easier. You're like, okay, is it like this or like this? Okay, it's like this. Okay, forget about it. I'm going to do something else, And then the third tool that I want to give, that's, you asked, what does it take to actually create peace? This tool is extremely helpful, and it's actually something called being an allowance. In allowance, you're like the rock in the stream. All these judgments, thoughts, ideas, attitudes, beliefs, they come at you and they go around you, and you're still there being you. And that's when you're not doing the positive polarity or the negative polarity. And the positive polarity is alignment and agreement, which is where you agree that something is real, and then you do resistance and reaction, which is fighting against it. Neither one of those work. Okay, so the tool to actually get there is this thing called interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And so everybody watching, get an upset that you've had in the last however long that's still with you, where you're kind of like, get that energy, and we're just going to try it. This may or may not work. Who knows? Who cares? You're not going to be any worse off if it doesn't work than you are right now, but it may actually change something for you. So get that energy and just say to it, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And you can do it out loud or silently. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, usually what happens, just saying it one time. You don't even have to believe it. You don't even have to know what I'm talking about, because the energy of it is there. So just saying it one time usually changes it a little bit. So now, to the new energy that's there, go, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And usually it lightens up a little bit more. Now to the new energy that's there, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And again, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Now, for most people, it actually changes really dynamically within 1 to 5 or 6 times of saying it. Rikki, did you have anything that you did that with?
Oh, I did it many times, and I also gave it as a tool to my clients, and they said it was like, they said in the beginning, they said, what is this? Like, are you serious? This would change something about this situation? And there was like severe situations, with families and fighting, and some of them came back and said, oh my God, it's like, what was I thinking to myself, or what was this thought or belief, or it's no longer there, and the life became like easier, lighter, and this created really peace between people that were fighting.
Yes.
And I said, take all the judgments that you have about this person, like he shouldn't do this, she's a bitch, she's a liar, she's whatever, and do it again and again and again. And it was like, oh my God, they came back like enlightened.
Awesome.
Did I ever tell you how much I adore those tools? So practical and so easy and so.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, I know, a lot of people around the world know, but it's like, they're so practical, they're so easy. It's not about having a belief system. It's like, it's just about getting out of the limited crap. You can still hold on to your religion and your family and your business and your all that. They just get better. You don't have to fall in line with somebody else's point of view. It's just these tools that are so friggin' practical that they actually work in the trenches of life that we live on a daily basis here. And I think that's so vital, because, I've done so many things where the tools just didn't work. you know, they were great while you were sitting in a classroom with somebody. Well, they were sort of good. Okay, maybe they sucked even then. Let me think about it. Some of them worked, but they didn't work while I was living my life because they didn't address what was actually going on. And they didn't address my judgments, and they didn't address my insecurities, and they didn't address my sense of wrongness, and they didn't address, you know, and these do, but they don't tell you they're addressing them. They just do, and you use it and it works, and you find out how or why later usually.
Mm-hmm. And in that point, can I ask you something about the tool of light and heavy?
Sure.
Light is always truth, and heavy is a lie. But is it my personal point of view of a lie or the universe?
Great question. Well, so let me just make a slight distinction in that light is what is true for you. So a lot of times we say light is, or, you know, people want to talk about truth, but each person seems to have their own truth. So light is what's actually true for you. And I know language wise, there may be a bit of a, you know, a distinction or whatever, but so just realize that the only thing that you can deal with really is what's true for you. And that's the awareness that you get to with what's light. Now, the heavy part that's a lie is also when it's a lie for you, but it also will point out basically when it's a lie in the universe. In other words, when somebody's telling you something that is not true and it makes you heavy, it's because it's not true for you, but it's also not true, period. And you can ask, okay, is this just not true for me? Is this true for them? Because there are certain things that people will tell you that make you heavy, like when they're talking to you about you, for example, and they say, well, you're really selfish. And you're like, okay, I just got heavy. Okay, so it must be a lie. Is that true for them? Well, maybe true for them, but it makes you heavy, which means it's not true for you. And you know, we could go into a much longer, larger discussion about the fact that a lot of people are lying a lot of the time with what they say, not even necessarily on purpose. They're not connected to themselves and what's true in line. They've been lied to their whole lives. They've been lying their whole lives. They don't even realize it anymore. They just go off with their fixed points of view, which is why it can be really helpful if you're interested in getting more awareness to recognize when something is heavy, recognize it's not true for you, recognize when something is light, recognize that is true for you, no matter whether you're saying it to yourself, where somebody else is saying it to you, or where somebody else is saying it in general, like a political figure or something. And then there's this other concept where part of it is light and part of it is heavy, which is what we find a lot of times in politics, which we call a truth with a lie attached. See, if somebody can take something that's true, so here's the true that's light, and then they attach a lie to it, what happens is it sticks your attention forever. And you keep going around on this Mobius strip trying to find out what's really going on. And this is something that if we can start to be aware of it, can really start to bring a lot of ease to our lives. So like if a friend says something to you and you're stuck with it, what you want to do is you want to ask what part of this is true and what part of this is a lie, spoken or unspoken. Because a lot of times people will not speak their lies out loud. They will say something that they think sounds right, that sounds true, and then there's an underlying lie with that. So one example is, you know, Gary, the founder of Aksess. He had a friend who was an amazing healer. And Gary knew that if he took Aksess classes, his healing capacities would explode, because that's one of the things that happens in Aksess. Your healing capacities, your business capacities, your awareness capacities explode. And so he invited him to do the second class in Aksess, the foundation class. And the guy didn't have any money. He said, that's okay. You're such a good friend. I'll give it to you as a gift. I know this will really contribute to you. Well, the guy didn't show up, and the guy never called. And Gary called a couple times. The guy never called him back. And so Gary went to see him where he worked. He was a massage therapist, and he worked in his wife's office. She was a chiropractor. And he went and he said, so what happened? Why didn't you come to the class? And the guy said, well, I was going to come, but I decided that my calling was to sell vitamins. And Gary was like, sell vitamins? What are you talking about? And he was like, okay, well, so he left, and it was still sticking him 3 days later. And so he finally started asking, okay, so what part of this is true and what part of it is a lie, spoken or unspoken? And he realized it was true that the guy didn't come to the class. It was true that he was going to sell vitamins, but the lie was that it was his choice and his idea. See, the guy's wife was a chiropractor, and she needed to wear the pants in the family. She needed to be the power in the family. If he actually showed up as an even greater healer and business person than she was, it was going to create a problem in their relationship. So the reason he didn't go to the class was because it wouldn't have worked for his relationship. So the lie was that that's why, the lie was it was his calling to sell vitamins. In reality, it was his wife saying, if you go do that, we're done. So this can be really helpful when your attention gets stuck on something. You want to ask what part is true and what part is a lie, spoken or unspoken. Especially ask it for people in any sort of power or public role. You want to ask it there, because some people are masters of this. Like, we have a president right now that is just a master at this, and who says things that just stick you continuously if you're not willing to go, what part of that was true? What part of this is a lie, spoken or unspoken?
Yeah. About this light and heavy thing, what I do mostly, so I keep asking questions, to get it more and more, get more awareness of it. Like you said, when it's true, it's the universe, showing me the truth. But for example, this guy that you were talking about, was he aware of this part of him that knows that if he comes to the class, he would lose his wife, for example? Because we have parts, I have my physical and part, and I'm aware of a lot of parts in me, like, I don't know, my higher self, my infinite being. The truth for each one of them is a little bit different sometimes. So sometimes my higher self, my higher part of me would see something that I can't see right now, and stop me from doing something, although it's for my my physical being is light, for example. I don't know how to explain it exactly. So I think
you explained it brilliantly, but I have to take a little issue with the idea of higher self or higher part and lower part. And I get exactly what you're talking about, but what we have to realize is us continuously putting us into higher self, lower self is what creates the fact that there seems to be this thing called a lower self, which is bullshit. What this is the us that functions from judgment and doesn't function from question and doesn't function from our total awareness of what will be created by our choices. And so it's been convenient, in spiritual circles and whatever, to put us into higher self and then me. That's fucked up. I mean, really, because we go, and remember, the other thing is your point of view creates your reality. Reality does not create your point of view. So what happens is when you have the point of view that there's a higher self, but you don't really know how to access it, and you don't really know what it is, and it shows up sometimes to contribute to you, and most of the time it's nowhere around. Wait, what? Why is that higher? No, that's not higher self and lower self. That's the self where I'm pretending to be human and pretending to be part of this judgmental world. And then there's the me when I'm actually following my awareness. They're both me. It's just a different choice that you make in that moment. Am I going to follow my awareness that I have Or am I going to follow my judgment and my linear point of view where I check off the check boxes of what's right? And so in that case for him, if he would have been really honest, here's the reason in access consciousness that we ask questions, because if he would have been really honest with himself, or if Gary would have been able to ask him questions, but Gary couldn't, because this was not an area he was willing to look at. Now, what's funny is they broke up a few years later because he started getting more powerful, which is, exactly what he was just postponing it a little bit. But if Gary had been able to say, so what's really going on, which is what we do in access classes all the time. So, okay, I know you're saying this story, I get it, but what's really going on? Like, what if it weren't that way? What is really true for you? And, and we have ways of, it's like we can ask questions and such by following what is there to get the person to see what's true for them. And that's really all we're interested in. So Gary could have, if the guy had been open to it, he could have asked him questions so the guy could have actually seen this. Now, when I say that, it's like if you can ask yourself questions, you can get to the awareness of what's really going on anytime you feel heavy or stuck. Or you can have somebody else do it, and you can get to the awareness of what's going on anytime you feel heavy or stuck, and then you get light again. But in this case, like if he had been asked some questions and he realized, oh my God, my wife doesn't want me to do this, and I'm so interested in pretending that I'm less than her because that's what she requires, that I will do anything, including not do what's going to make me greater. Cool. Now, that doesn't mean he has to change it. That doesn't mean he's got to go home and break up with his wife. It just means he got a brilliant piece of awareness. And of course, that thing that he just became aware of is, of course, bleeding over into other areas of his relationship and other relationships he has in his life. So now he's just been given this gem, like in a video game, we call it an Easter egg, where you just found this secret thing, this amazing gift that will allow you superpowers, And so he would get this thing, but it doesn't mean that he's got to go home and break up with his wife. It may mean he looks at it and goes, wow, I have been doing this my whole life. Holy cow. Oh shit. I'm the one who's been creating it this way because I like it that way, because I don't have to be the power that I am. Oh my God. And I was blaming her. Oh, this is awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so when you talk about the awareness, what happens is anytime we're functioning from judgment or conclusion, we're not functioning from awareness. We can get out of judgment or conclusion by, number one, choosing not to do it. But number two, by asking question of my stuck point of view, that we don't have to stick our point of view, because realize that for every judgment you have, what's that?
Sorry, I lost you for the last sentence.
Okay. What we can do is we can get out of our judgments by asking ourselves questions to find out where we stuck our point of view or where we fixed our point of view. And like, if we would have asked that guy questions like, hey, so you didn't go to the class? Cool. So did you want to? Yeah, I really did. So when did you decide you didn't want to? Oh, the night before I was talking to my wife. Oh, really? What happened? Well, she was just letting me know that, she was going to miss me if I went to class and all that. Oh, really? Cool. So was it about missing you or something else? Oh, like that series of questions, whatever that would be based on what somebody presents. That's how we can get out of our fixed points of view after we've been in a situation where a fixed point of view has limited us. And see, for every judgment, every decision, every conclusion, every fixed point of view we have, nothing that doesn't match that judgment, decision, conclusion, or fixed point of view can even come into our awareness. So it's like, basically we go, universe, this is reality. These are my judgments. These are my decisions. And the universe is like, yeah, but there's this thing over here that you could have too, and it would actually make your life lighter. And like, no, that isn't real. Only this is. Mm-hmm. And this is where, we started with this conversation of fixed points of view and judgments. This is how we're limiting ourselves. But if we choose to, we can start changing it by asking some of these questions, like, what else is possible? What if it weren't that way? What's really going on here? How does it get any better than this? Which is a really good one. What's right about this I'm not getting? What's right about me I'm not getting? And what's it going to take to change this? And what would be lighter for me if I chose it?
referring to this, what if it's like his subconsciousness, so he's not aware of it? So you are saying if I ask him questions, he will get it. Sometimes it's deep inside, like, you know, it's subconscious. And if I ask light or heavy, I could get it. I can sense it. But sometimes people doesn't really know it until you know, put it up to the surface and, you know, put the energy out and so they can see it. So what are you saying about subconsciousness? Just curious to know. What do you think?
Well, I would agree it's subconscious, but also we have to realize we have this idea that cognitive, meaning mental, is somehow conscious, but it's not. It's cognitive. When we're using our mind, we're not functioning from our consciousness. We're functioning from the machine called our mind. Our consciousness is actually that which is connected with every molecule in the universe, and it has infinite perceiving, infinite knowing, infinite receiving, infinite being. And when we talk about subconscious, you know, usually that's a psychological construct talking about those things that are buried or hidden deep within us. And I would agree, it is subconscious. It is below consciousness, meaning below your awareness. And I would say mostly that is a function of your mind. But we don't need to debate that right now, especially since we're sort of at the close of our time. But this thing that we call subconscious is anything that we have made ourselves unaware of, and usually we're committed to keeping it hidden. So that's the reason I brought up, you know, this with this guy, for example. A lot of it, and this is what we find in all access consciousness classes, most of what people have that's limiting them is hidden. Now you can call it your subconscious. I would rather not even debate it. I just know that we can change it. In that, if you ask, see, the way it works is somebody, how do I do it with my hands? I don't know if people are watching or listening, but somebody will present something that's like this, right? And from their point of view, their cognitive point of view, here is my problem, solve it. And I'll go, cool. But behind their problem is all the stuff that is really going on that led to this being a problem. So what I do, one of the things I'll ask somebody, you know, like, so in this case with the guy, you know, I went through sort of a series of questions where you could start. What you do with anybody, what you do with yourself, is just start somewhere. Because starting somewhere will start to pull the sort of pieces apart, or pull the little bricks off that are in the wall, and then you'll be able to see behind it to see what's actually there. And so, you know, there's all kinds of different places where we might start the conversation, but what it really is about is accessing what people would call the subconscious, which is actually the consciousness that they actually are, that they've hidden, or that they've made not valuable, or that they've tried to cover up. Because let's face it, we don't live in a world where very many people are willing to have this thing called consciousness and total awareness, which is fine. You know, we're doing our part, changing our thing. But that's what, from my point of view, the subconscious is where we're actually hiding our awareness and consciousness. And by the way, the only time we ever create a difficulty in our lives, or in our relationships, or in money, or in our bodies, is when we're hiding our consciousness and not functioning from the consciousness we are, which is just so funny. Because if you have total awareness of, oh, this is heavier, I'm not going to do it. But we go, oh, that's heavier, I will find a way to make it lighter, I'm going to go do it. Oh, my house just fell off the cliff. You know, it's like, it could be so much easier if we would just get how easy it could be and allow ourselves to have that ease. And then we would be beacons for that ease in the world. And the people that actually desired it would be drawn to us, and they'd be like, what is it you're doing that's so different? I just like being around you. And then they would be able to have it because we were being that space. They would get it easier. They would get through their shit quicker. And then more people around them would be drawn to them. And in so doing, the world becomes a much more fun place to live.
Amazing. So we don't have more time, as you said.
Yes, we're unfortunately, I have a meeting that I'm a couple minutes late for, so.
Okay, I get it.
But it has been fun.
It was totally fun and enlightening, really enlightening my world and really contribution. So I really thank you. And
thank you.
Forward to see you again in person, hopefully in Israel, for you. I'm gonna come any place in the world to see you again. It was
thank you.
Great pleasure for me talking to you.
Thank you. And I got to say, I look forward to coming back to Israel. What we spoke about at the beginning, really, there are some of the most phenomenal, caring, exploratory, adventurous, creative, kind people desiring more consciousness in Israel. And I very much look forward to coming back and seeing what we can create together.
So when you come again, let me show you a piece of Israel, you know. See, yeah.
Schedule depending, schedule allowing. Okay, deal.
Thank you very much. And,
thank you, my dear.
And how does it get any better?
Exactly. How does it get any better than this? What else is possible? Let's go out and have too much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next time.
See you.
Bye.